Hi everyone, welcome back to the Existing Features track. I'm Jordi, and for this session, we are joined by two rising stars here at Akeneo. We have Greg and Demi. Now, although I say Greg and Demi has having a little bit of technical issues, so hopefully he'll be able to join us very soon. But they'll be they'll be talking about one of my favorite topics of 2026 so far, which is the MCP server and custom components. Now, before we dive in, just two quick reminders. Please use the Q&A chat for any questions you have for our moderators, and don't forget to check out the downloadable assets for more info. Now, with that being said, please help me welcome Demi and Greg.
Thanks, Jordi. It's great to be back here on stage, but this time in the comfort of my home office. So today we're going to be focusing on how to enrich products using external intelligence. So this is not just about managing product data, but actually about improving how decisions get made around that data. What we're really talking about here is bringing that right context, that right intelligence, things like compliance, supply chain data, into the user interface at the moment where product decisions are happening. Because that's what teams are still struggling with today. So, as Jordi just mentioned, I'm Greg Roney. I'm a senior solutions engineer, and hopefully momentarily I will be joined by my colleague Demi, who is a technical product marketing manager here at Akeneo. Let's all cross our fingers that he gets to join me on stage here. All right. So you fixed your product data problem. This is something that Akeneo is really good about helping companies solve, right? But after they've centralized all of that data, improved their quality, built strong processes around all of this, they're now running into a new challenge, which is that they need to make decisions about those products, make decisions such as, when am I going to launch these? Are these ready for regulatory requirements that are coming due in the EU around digital product passport? These are really harder than they need to be. Even with clean, centralized data, decision processes can still feel very fragmented and manual. A lot of that information is in silos across the organization, in different systems, across different teams. Some of it still might be in spreadsheets, right? So what we will be discussing today, the root cause here, right? Things like that pricing, compliance, sourcing, sustainability, AI, all spread around, right? Like I said. So a real world example, I've been talking to a lot of companies that have presence here in the United States and presence in Europe. And with the upcoming digital product passports, a lot of companies, even the ones based here in the United States, are worried about how they're going to meet that regulatory compliance for the textiles for their batteries, because they need to have that full product journey outlined about that supply chain in order to meet that, right? So what you will walk away with today is a concept of the applications we'll be talking about today. So a conceptual application, a concrete use case, a demo, and the implications as to what you can do around all of this. So the decision coordination problem, right? When you're looking to launch a product, it is, like I said, coordinating multiple decisions. So compliance and risk, supply and sustainability, commercial readiness, and you need it all to come together before you can move forward. And where does this data live? So you have the compliance data over here in, say, ERPs, managed by product managers, regulatory. You have content systems like Binder over here, managed by your design teams and product managers. You've got your supplier and external data managed over here in SAP with procurement and research and development. And then you've got your product managers, your merchandising teams here in the PIM working on editing, validation, enrichment, product creation. And the question, where does a decision happen to make these products go live, right? So Akeneo is doing a great job of centralizing that product data, but does this merchandiser, this product manager, have all of the context that they need without switching systems, without going to a different team? All right. What if that intelligence could live in the PIM at the moment of decision? And so today we'll be talking about 3 capabilities of Akeneo that can make that happen, that can bring all of that information in. Our MCP server, the actual external intelligence, so maybe this isn't actually an Akeneo capability, and then the custom components that allow us to surface that in the PIM. So with the example that I talked about earlier, this is usually where Demi would then switch over to me. With me doing all of it, this is something that I would maybe think of to handle the situation, right? We're all using AI today as much as possible to do everything. And so if I wanted to get that information from all of those upstream systems, well, maybe I would have OpenClaw running locally on a little Mac Mini, and it's going to go into the GUI of all of these systems and grab all of the relevant information from those systems GUIs using Internet Explorer 6, and then use the MCP connection to put all of that into the PIM using our MCP connection. And please don't do this. Please do not do this. This is probably not something you actually want to do. But what if you did it? Let's go into a demo. Here we are in the PIM. And as I talked about before, we have the product journey information, which is necessary for that digital product passport. And all of this is empty for this product. And so I'm going to open up our extension panel here for our custom component. And it pops up and it says, hey, critical sustainability information is missing. Do you want to get that information using that MCP connection, having Claude go out and grab it and put it in? And I'm going to go ahead and say, yeah, go ahead and get that. And so it's establishing that connection. It's asking Claude to get that. Claude's going out, opening up all of these browser windows using Internet Explorer 6, grabbing the information, putting it into the PIM, and in a moment, there we go. All of that information is now there. And now as that merchandiser, that product manager, I can open that again and I can see, I have all of the information that is necessary and I can feel confident that this is ready to go to market in those locales. Now, that is a really silly example. We probably wouldn't want to use custom components or MCP in that way, mostly because we don't want to use OpenCloud that way. But what is that MCP connection? So at a functional level, MCP is how agents interact with the PIM. It exposes the structured resources, the tools, and the context so that the agent knows what to do. This is all grounded. So the agent now has the context of how to ground any decision based on your current product data model, based on the attributes, based on products and the relationships. And then it can start to call APIs, retrieve that structured context, understand how it works, and then make updates to the PIM. Now, what are some more grounded real-world examples of utilizing MCP? So these examples came from current Akeneo customers or from my team when we are setting up for demos. So this first one might be to analyze product information for patterns. We could also analyze the schema and attributes and have the agent create things that are missing, or do more complex restructuring. And Dummy is here. Hooray, he's made it.
The internet let me in. I'm so sorry, everyone. But yes, Greg, I know you're talking about MCP real world examples and how we can use MCP to kind of enhance the way we interact with the PIM. I don't know what you've said up until now, but it's really about optionality, right? We're really thinking about how we can give more options on how to work with your data and make decisions within the PIM. So I'll leave it at that and let you jump into the examples of MCP.
All right, excellent. So with these real world examples, if I come over here I have Claude. And so this is connected to my PIM. And so here I have one for restructuring simple products into product models. And so I asked it to identify candidates of simple products in the Akeneo Unlock data set here and find things that should maybe be product models, and then suggest what that might be. I have asked it to do it in a read-only fashion because we did this demo many times and I didn't want to interrupt this for any of my other colleagues doing demos throughout the Unlock session. And it went through and it came up with these possible product models, these color variants here. And it's waiting for me to say go. And if I were to say go, then it could go ahead and can actually create those product models for me in the PIM and associate all those simple products into the new product models. Here we have a schema attribute analysis. And so for this one, I have asked it to analyze the product data in the Akeneo Unlock PIM here and find with the existing product families, the product types, for each family, identify within that industry if there are any gaps within the attribute set there, and then go ahead and recommend any additional attributes. And that could be things like industry standards, schema.org requirements, regulatory, marketplace readiness, so on and so forth. And it came back and it has identified some high commercial value attributes that should probably be in the PIM. And again, if I were to say go, it could go ahead and create those for me.
Greg, just to add a little context here, I think the really powerful thing here is how MCP enables that context that you've worked so hard to establish in your PIM environment and lets you interact with someone that's not someone, I guess. I think of my assistant as someone, but someone that has the context of what that is. So like, it really is a helper, a way to kind of like contextualize the decisions you need to make within the PIM.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's great. Great context, Demi. And so you can have a conversation back and forth about what your PIM is, what is in there. The last example here is analyzing specific products here. And I asked it to, find the language that's being used in the current product descriptions. This one was an actual example from an Akeneo customer. They wanted to know what the tone of voice was, the brand voice of their product descriptions, so that they can write prompts around ensuring that any future product descriptions aligned to that tone of voice, that brand voice, the brand guidelines. So it came back with a tone profile, common issues that might come up, and then it can go ahead and generate a prompt, which is missing. Thank you, Claude. Always that demo effect, right, folks? But it did come up with a prompt here to that I can then use going forward to analyze products. Right.
Amazing.
I mean,
I love maybe I'm just a nerd and I really, really like MCP and kind of like the contextual parts of data. I study data science, so it's kind of in my blood at this point. I really, really like those examples. Let's shift a little bit and talk about how we're kind of like surfacing decision surfaces within the PEM. So I like to think of custom components as this really flexible UI component that allows us to bring external data directly in the PEM. When we talk about that external intelligence, and again, going back to context and having teams be able to work in one place, I will highlight that I have ADHD. So sometimes if I leave to go to a different tab, I may never come back. So what custom components really enables is the ability to easily embed custom workflows or custom works and make the Akeneo PEM interface work for the team, whether that's a role specific or a team specific interface. It really lets you build limitless options to be able to interact with the PEM and surface those decision layers, whether it be inventory or it be kind of e-commerce. And I think Greg has some pretty concrete examples of what that might look like in a PEM environment.
yeah, certainly. So we saw the silly example of custom components on MCP, and then we saw the real world example of MCP. Here are some real world examples of the custom components. And so if I slide back over here, I have a different PIM setup. And here I have these extensions, and I have a Shopify health check dashboard. So it's loading information from Shopify. So it's pulling in that external information here. And now I can see at a glance in my PIM things like total revenue for this product, total number of units sold, average quantity per order, very important information that I might need as a merchandiser, as a product manager to decide what to do about this product. If I come back to my product listings here and jump into, say, this one, I have up here my extension panel again, and I have a lot of different ones in this PEM. And so I can go ahead and come over to the data component here. And I meant to click on the stock one here. There we go. So it's pulling in stock information, again, external from the PEM. But now I have not just that information here, but I also have buttons that I can click to take action in that external system. So I'm sending a request out to that system to do additional things without actually having to go into that system. So just as Demi said, no longer having to switch tabs and hope that you're going to remember to come back to the tab that you were originally in. Right? Now, there are near limitless possibilities of what you can do with these sorts of things. Your imagination can run pretty wild with what it is that you're able to do, as long as it is within the limits of what JavaScript can do, what TypeScript can do, and what our SDK will allow you to do. And so as another funny example here, we have our Ziggy Jumper game, and I can start to jump around here as Ziggy and hopefully get the high score. But
You're
I
really
did not.
good at this. Every time I try and play it's a disaster. I think custom components are really powerful. Um, as Greg highlighted just now, we saw one kind of a dashboard configuration, one in the extension panel. I know the team is working very, very hard to make sure that we have availability across the PIM. Again, like I'm talking about this optionality. How you want to work with the PIM shouldn't be limited by our user interface. And this is what we're really bringing to you. Like we focused on two tools today around like bringing context to your decision making and surfacing the decision layer within the PEM. But you can do, I like to say limitless. I think Greg and I have this ongoing battle about this word, but I think it's, you can do just about anything you want in the PEM. And I think that's really, really powerful as we start to scale in this world of AI and things are moving so much faster for individual users. Having the ability to kind of keep pace with that by like not having to switch or being able to leverage information in one place can be transformational. If we just switch back, yeah, to my slides, possibly.
Rephrase your question, Demi.
Oh, never mind. I am still catching up. So I guess the thing I would love to see, Greg, is the ability. We talked about like the options of putting it places, but like, is there an easy way to show how this happens in the PIM? Like, what would that look like?
Sure. So let's go ahead and put a new extension into the PIM. So I'm going to come to my settings. I'm going to go ahead and come to my extensions. Now, of course, I'm logged in as an admin right now, so I'm able to do this sort of stuff. And I can create one. And here we have the custom component extension type. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that. And it's coming up here with this lovely box telling us all the stuff we just talked about. So I'll go ahead and skip that. Now I am going to call this one unlock 2 because there's an unlock 1 from last week still. And I get to decide where this is going to go. So as Demi was just talking about, there are a lot of possibilities as to where you can put this. Your imagination can go a little wild of how you can change the user interface to meet your needs. And so I can make this, say, the product panel, because that's what I designed the one I'm about to put in to do. And then I scroll down here and I find the source code for that in my very messy file system. And there it is. And I can go ahead and add in custom variables that might be needed by the script. I can add in a connection. So if this is going to make external API calls, as we saw in this one over here, I would need to make sure that I have the appropriate information to do that. And then I can go ahead and save this. And that should be enabled. Now, it does take a moment to refresh, so it may not show up initially, but pretty soon we should see another tab here with that new extension that we just added.
Yeah, I think the focus here is we're trying to make it as streamlined as possible for us to be able to enable changes directly for you. So if you decided you wanted to like use Claude code to build a custom component, you can easily build that in one day and just easily throw it into your configuration. And I think that's really, really powerful in giving the keys over to our customers in a way that allows them to up-level their product data management. So we've talked a lot today about bringing that external intelligence into the product. As we just saw with custom component, it can be really powerful. And MCP allows us to leverage that directly in the PIM. It makes it really easy for us to think about how we work differently in the PIM. So really, it's about changing the way that product decisions are made, being able to adapt to each product, each market, each decision moment that occurs within your working day. So if you take nothing else away from today, I want you to think about one thing, or I guess 3: faster, smarter, flexible. So faster decisions without without losing your context. Smarter decision leveraging external intelligence directly in the PIM. And beyond that, flexible decisions. We're not just building features for feature's sake. We bring in controls and make it easy for you to configure the way that you need to. So grounding this in like how we think about the levels, as I like to call them. I'm a big gaming nerd, so I like to think about leveling up. The first level is centralizing that product data using Akeneo PIM, making sure all of your data is in one place and you have a single source of truth. Then we move to activating those across the channels downstream from your PIM. And then finally, orchestrating product decisions using context and external data to make sure you're making the right choices about the work that you're doing. And with that, I'm going to pop open and see if we have any questions that are coming through. Feel free to use the chat to ask any questions. We then want to thank everyone for joining us today. And I want to emphasize how important it is that we hear from our customers. Thank you so much for joining us today. We hope this was super valuable. Apologies for the technical hiccups in my joining. If you have any questions, reach out to your team at Akeneo. We're always here as a partner for the work that you're doing day to day. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, thank you, Demi and Greg. I really, truly love this stuff. So honestly, Demi, you're not the only nerd in the room here. I really love where this whole AI thing is taking us. It just keeps blowing my mind. We're almost at the end of the day 2 of Unlock Digital. So for our final sessions in the new features track, we're exploring the next stage of Supplier Data Manager. And right here in the existing features track, we'll be discussing how to scale your product stories with AI while staying consistent and compliant. So we do have a couple extra minutes, but see you there. And thank you for joining us in this session. Thank you again, Demi and Greg.